On Easter morning in the year 1900, the Aegean Sea lay restless beneath a pale Greek sun. Near the tiny, rocky island of Antikythera, wedged between the southern Greek mainland and Crete, a group of sponge divers prepared for another routine descent. These men made their living by plunging into dangerous depths, armed with little more than weighted boots, heavy copper helmets, and courage hardened by years of risk. Among them was a diver named Elias Stadiatos. When Stadiatos surfaced from one particular dive, something was wrong. His movements were frantic. His words tumbled out in confusion. He spoke of a nightmare beneath the waves, a vision so strange that his companions first believed he had been poisoned by the depths. He claimed he had seen a heap of dead, naked women scattered across the seabed. Concerned but curious, the others descended to investigate for themselves. What they discovered was no hallucination. Lying nearly 140 feet below the surface, stretched across the ocean floor, was the 164-foot-long wreck of a Roman cargo ship, silent and broken after nearly 2,000 years of darkness. The dead women were statues. Marble and bronze figures, torsos, limbs, frozen expressions, lay tangled among shattered pottery, coins, gold jewelry, and the remains of wooden planks long since softened by time. The ship had gone down sometime in the early 1st century BC, and the sea had preserved its secrets with ruthless patience. Among the treasures hauled up from the wreck were several strange, unremarkable objects, lumps of heavily corroded bronze, fused together, unrecognizable. When brought to the surface, they cracked and crumbled, as if the air itself rejected them. No one paid them much attention. Everything recovered from the ship was eventually shipped to the National Museum in Athens, catalogued, displayed, or quietly stored away. And there, buried not beneath the sea, but beneath dust and indifference, the greatest technological mystery of the ancient world waited. A glimpse of the impossible. On May 17, 1902, nearly 2 years after the shipwreck's discovery, Greek archaeologist Spiridon Stais was examining those forgotten bronze fragments. They were still crusted with marine growth, calcified evidence of 2 millennia beneath salt water. As Stais studied one particular piece, something caught his eye. Embedded in the corrosion was a gear wheel. Not decorative, not symbolic, a functional gear. Nearby were faint markings, Greek inscriptions, barely visible beneath the corrosion. Further cleaning revealed that these fragments were not random debris, but pieces of a single object. Slowly, painstakingly, the truth emerged. What lay before them was a complex mechanical device, made of bronze, measuring roughly 33 by 17 by 9 centimeters. It had once been housed in a wooden case with hinged doors, though the wood had long since dried, collapsed, and vanished. Stais believed he was looking at an ancient astronomical clock. Most scholars disagreed. The device was simply too complex, too precise, too advanced to belong to a ship dated to the 1st century BC. Many insisted it must be a medieval astrolabe, somehow dropped into the wreck centuries later. After all, the earliest known astrolabes came from 9th century Iraq, nearly 1,000 years after the Roman ship sank. No consensus was reached, and slowly the enigma faded from attention. In 1951, the forgotten object found its champion. An English physicist named Derek de Solla Price, then a professor of the history of science at Yale University, encountered the mechanism and was immediately captivated. What others dismissed, Price recognized as something revolutionary. He began an 8-year investigation using X-ray photography to peer inside the corroded fragments without destroying them. What he saw changed history. In June 1959, Price published his findings in Scientific American under a title that shocked the academic world: An Ancient Greek Computer. The X-rays revealed at least 20 separate gears, including something previously thought impossible for the ancient world, a differential gear. This type of gear allows two shafts to rotate at different speeds, a mechanism believed to have been invented in the 16th century and famously used in modern automobile axles. Price concluded that the Antikythera fragments were the remains of a great astronomical clock, a device closely resembling a modern analog computer. Some scholars reacted with disbelief. One professor flatly refused to accept the possibility, suggesting instead that the device had somehow fallen into the wreck during medieval times. The implication was clear. Ancient Greeks simply could not have built something like this. Price refused to back down. Decoding the machine. In 1974, after further research aided by X-ray and gamma radiographs conducted by Greek radiographer Christos Karakalos, Price published a full monograph. Gears from the Greeks, the Antikythera Mechanism, a calendar computer from ca. 80 BC. The new images revealed at least 30 gears, though many were incomplete. Yet enough survived to reveal the device's purpose. By turning a handle, the mechanism could display the motion of the sun, the motion of the moon, likely the planets, the rising of major stars. It was a working mechanical model of the cosmos. From inscriptions and gear positions, including a subtle year ring, Price traced its origins to the Greek island of Rhodes, linking it to the astronomer Geminus of Rhodes, who lived between 110 and 40 BC. The shipwreck itself contained storage jars from Rhodes and appeared to have been sailing from Rhodes to Rome when it sank around 80 BC. If the device was already several years old, then its construction likely dates to around 87 BC. The date fits. The place fits. The intellect fits. Rhodes was no backwater. In the 2nd century BC, the engineer Philo of Byzantium described a remarkable machine he witnessed there, the polybolos, a repeating catapult powered by gears and a chain drive. It could fire continuously without reloading. The Stoic philosopher Poseidonius, who lived on Rhodes, studied the tides, measured the size of the sun, and calculated the distance to the moon with surprising accuracy. And then there was Hipparchus of Rhodes, the father of trigonometry, the first to scientifically catalog the stars, and one of the earliest Europeans to integrate Babylonian astronomical knowledge into Greek science. It is entirely possible, perhaps even likely, that elements of Hipparchus' theories lived on inside the gears of the Antikythera mechanism. Rebuilding the lost machine. In modern times, several reconstructions have brought the device back to life. Australian computer scientist Alan George Bromley, alongside clockmaker Frank Percival, created a partial working model. Bromley's improved X-rays later allowed his student Bernard Gardner to produce a 3D digital reconstruction. English orrery maker John Gleave built a fully functioning model, showing the sun and moon moving through the zodiac against the Egyptian calendar. Then in 2002, Michael Wright, curator at London Science Museum, used linear tomography, a technique that isolates single planes within an object, to study the gears in unprecedented detail. Wright concluded the mechanism could accurately track all 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. In September 2002, Wright's reconstruction went on display in Athens. Despite everything we've learned, one question remains unanswered. How was it used? Was it an astrological device? A teaching tool? A planetarium? A wealthy man's marvel? Price believed it was part of a continuous tradition of advanced mechanical knowledge passed from Greece to the Arab world and eventually forming the foundation of medieval European clockmaking. Ancient texts now take on new meaning. The Roman writer Cicero, living at the time of the shipwreck, described a device built by Poseidonius that reproduced the motions of the sun, moon, and planets. He also wrote of a planetarium built by Archimedes, taken as war booty after the fall of Syracuse, where Archimedes himself was killed. Some even speculate the Antikythera device may trace its lineage directly back to Archimedes. The legacy of the impossible. Today, the Antikythera Mechanism sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens alongside a reconstruction. A replica also resides in the American Computer Museum in Montana. It has permanently altered our understanding of the ancient world. This was not a primitive civilization stumbling in darkness. This was a world capable of building machines 1,000 years ahead of their time. Derek de Solla Price once remarked that a civilization capable of constructing such a device could have built almost anything they wanted to. Most of it is gone, lost to time, lost to war, lost to the sea, and if not for a frightened sponge diver surfacing in terror on an Easter morning in 1900, we might never have known.